We've got Zoe next for management and security culture. Please welcome Zoe. And I don't know how to say her last name, so she's going to have to say it.
Briggerman. Thank you so much, Chris. I'm really glad to be here. And then, thank you to Chris Squared, if I may call you guys that. An amazing team, a dynamic duo, if you will. And I want to especially thank Chris Kubeka, quote unquote, or some very similar quote, said to speak from the heart, because I don't necessarily stick to slides the best. I like interaction, even though this topic isn't super interactive per se. So management and security culture, and it actually touches upon what, a lot of what Chloe said, and also some of what Danielle had touched upon. So my educational background is in business, to give you an example, but I wasn't so great at, I didn't jive so well with the Wall Street type culture in New York, being a business person. And I learned the importance of culture through that experience. Less of a suit and tie type of handshake. How do you do, more than like Alice, Bob, and Mallory, or sometimes they use a different term and all. Yeah. Anyway, so I work a lot with startups, and I wanted to share some stories about how HR and all the steps of the processes with a tight-knit group has to do with productivity and security, and how they go hand in hand very much as decisions continue to be made from the ground up, because things could very well completely fail in every aspect of a startup. So it starts with hiring. A lot of it is from staff retention. You got to be able to get along with them, but at the same time, not enough care to fear pissing them off to the point where you will not be honest with each other and you will not be transparent. And anyone who does anything with, DevSecOps or any sort of project management will know how important continuous feedback is, not only for technical and security metrics, but also for business metrics and team productivity metrics. So a lot of that kind of transferred to learning that. So a lot of HR and recruitment sometimes is outsourced to startup job boards for roles that a given CEO can't fill within their network, and that eliminates some of the trust and some of the incentives to do a good job for the startup, rather than going for just a set salary, which is there, because humans are humans. And especially with remote work, which is obviously more prevalent during COVID. And all of that has to, affects decision makings in general. It affects developers, tendency to listen to security advice from the security expert, whether it's an official role or whether it's just kind of a volunteer member of the team stepping in to become the security champion, is often the term I've heard. And so a lot can really kind of go wrong just on that front in of itself. And so again, it starts with recruitment. I don't know how many of you have ever worked with something just completely from the ground up, a startup, or even just a volunteer project that's not security specific, and somebody will just say, you do the security, and not know what they meant. That person, as a manager, would then at least have to listen to the person with the security knowledge, how, when they try to explain what that means, and gently, correct any misunderstandings on anybody's points, and also again take feedback and try to be on the same page with the developers or with whatever other role it is for a given task at hand. And because at the end of the day, the human element being a factor, which is, I often find, hear said insecurity as far as team dynamics, is also the same as far as getting really anything accomplished. So, which draws upon mental health too, as Chloe said. So, again, understanding what you don't understand for any given role and continuing to check in, so every other aspect of project management is of utmost important in making secure development decisions secure. Other operations, monitoring and measuring accordingly, and also um, you know um, and also all of testing, especially when it has to be done in a very inexpensive, lightweight manner. And so some of the management specific concepts that I've applied are management structures. I don't know if any of you are familiar with the inverted pyramid, which is rather than a top-down approach. So I'll start with the top-down approach. So top-down approach is a manager has everyone working under him or her, reporting to that person in some sort of hierarchy. And an inverted pyramid is when people and the lower downs who are doing more specific roles kind of have say in every step of the process to kind of guide management in a nutshell. And some combination of the two, somewhere in between, I feel like, and deciding on a per project basis is really key. Because every secure development process really is is collaborative, especially when everyone's wearing multiple hats. Unintended. But so secure and getting hands-on and displaying care. Empathy is often mentioned as one of the important human elements in DevSecOps. But it's also facilitating cheap talk and kind of communication just for the sake of communication, so that there's organic flow and organic free-flowing thoughts, just as far as cultural, because it works. Any social scientific factors, just having an open culture of flowful conversation in every regard, again with trust. And it's obviously kind of different when everyone's in different departments. I've never really worked in a large corporation. It's always been smaller teams, but it's very, very important, and really any opportunity for feedback or further cooperation is very important. Making sure everyone's on the same page to some extent where possible, as long as there are skills. Again, especially for a bunch of unknowns like a startup, you really need people to be willing to continuously learn as technology, decision making may evolve a lot. And again, know what they don't know and help each other out. Because you don't want unhappy employees who won't communicate when there's a problem, and a non-security problem might lead to a security problem eventually if things just kind of go out of control chaotically. And it's so it's so variable per each scenario. So one needs to adapt for that. So again, the importance of commitment to learning, commitment to wanting to teach each other, and commitment for managers to be just part of the team. Just hearing everybody out and facilitating collaboration. And there are more, specific managerial terms, but at the end of the day, you want to make sure that, all of the agile principles as far as delivery to the customer plus internal, because everything affects the product, everything affects the security being a big part of it. Also, facilitating mentorship internally and externally is very important. A lot of what these types of communities are there for is to get some, other people's experiences and learn from other people's experiences and diversity of thought that you can then bring to your team, and teams and managers should encourage that. I'm not saying funding conferences per se, because some teams can't afford it, again, especially very early stage startups, but you really want to encourage growth and encourage them to learn from whoever they can and bring that back to the team, as opposed to just keeping themselves for themselves. And who's to say that they will go and optimize learning opportunities that are offered. But again, that kind of falls under the category of hiring. And really, like, how to facilitate that, again, is so variable. You literally just have to learn per case. You kind of have to do your recon in very abstract, qualitative, open ways. And which kind of aided my decision to not use the slide deck that I had put together for a similar topic. But yeah, I mean, and I think, oddly enough, I think that a very social gathering where there are games, and that D&D resembling game was quite brilliantly done, by the way. I just learned it was D&D because I never played that, but I looked up those character names that I hadn't heard of. But again, free-flowing thoughts. I'm not saying that it has to be a virtual bar crawl per se, but having everybody be friendly and open as a starting point is actually measurable. It actually matters. It actually matters, again, as Chloe said. If a manager won't give you what you need for your mental health, which will then affect everything in terms of the work you do, then you want to take your talent elsewhere. You want to take your commitment everywhere. You want to take that combination of you elsewhere and their opportunities. And then you go back to some open community and you meet someone else, and you really do have a choice. And in a way, that's a big silver lining as far as DEF CON having and all Hacker Summer Camp and all of this going virtual, is that it eliminates certain access barriers. And I usually suggest that people who have specific questions reach out to me by message, because again, managing anything or answering any questions in specific is is always important, and I really like to have one-on-one conversation. I can put my Twitter handle in the chat. Actually, I did that for an earlier talk too. And just again, continue to learn and continue to bounce ideas off of each other in any role. I know business was mentioned here. More specific areas of security, IAM specific, and you really just need to make sure that everything's kind of free flowing, and that management should not be something scary. It should be something ingrained with the rest of operations and people. By the way, Chris Square has done an excellent job in facilitating this, so thank you again. I'll give yourselves a round of applause. I'm a corny person, and you really need to do that. It is important. You're going to thank me later, and if you don't, I'm okay with that too.
So you're asking everyone here to give themselves a round of applause?
And each other, if that helps better.
I think that's a good
applause
for everyone.
All around. Especially, in the midst of a pandemic, we're still here. We are getting through this. We are getting through this together, and we are presenting some more kind of structured way than others. But you really managing in such chaos is a big thing, and you should pride yourself in that, because that's what's going to really transfer to your next stages of success.
I think you had some excellent points, Zoe, in terms of making sure there's effective communication from day one about non-security issues leading to security issues. So thank you very much. And I like the fact that you've put your Twitter handle out there for anyone to contact you so you can have one-on-one talks on the topic.